you ever found yourself apologizing to someone who bumps into you, like, oh, sorry, even though it was their elbow that did the crime? Well, welcome to the world of adult people-pleasing, where we're all walking around with imaginary report cards in our head. Today, we're going to smash that habit to bits. And in the meantime, we're going to reclaim some of our sanity. So buckle up, ladies, because it's time to stop people-pleasing once and for all. Why on earth, as fully grown women with mortgages and hair dye budgets, do we still worry about getting in trouble? In trouble with whom? For what? It's not like our middle school principal is lurking behind the counter at the Kroger ready to scream at us because we bought the wrong brand of toilet paper. But somehow our brains are still stuck in that playground mindset, fearful of disapproval and desperate to fit in and ready to burn ourselves just to make someone else happier. The truth is, we're hardwired to seek approval. Evolutionarily, our ancestors survived by being part of a tribe, and tribes had rules, usually implemented by some alpha type who was the one who got to decide who was going to eat dinner that night and who was going to keep an eye out for predators. Fast forward a few millennia, and instead of saber-toothed tigers, we have Instagram likes and PTA moms, and that one aunt that still expects handwritten thank you cards every holiday. And we've convinced ourselves that if we don't comply, we'll be exiled to the land of social pariahs. But here's the kicker. Your self-worth is not dictated by the number of thank you notes that you write or the number of yeses you hand out to events that you are not interested in going to. When we get stuck in the people-pleasing cycle, we forget the biggest truth of all. We are people. We have desires and hobbies and talents, and they matter. Somehow, people-pleasing convinces you that your needs come second or even third, behind everyone else's, and you become a pinball bouncing between appointments and obligations and favors, never pausing to ask, what about me? Because here's where it starts to get sticky. When you're busy saying yes to everyone else's demands, you're simultaneously telling yourself no to the things you really want to do. And that chronic sacrificing of your own wants and needs is what leads you to depression and burnout and anxiety. Research after research shows that people who get stuck in a people-pleasing cycle are actually more prone to stress-induced illnesses. Things like high blood pressure and insomnia. Not to mention that weird rash that you Googled at 2 a.m. that freaked you out so you distracted yourself by organizing your sock drawer. None of those are good signs. Now, for those of us with ADHD, that inner drive to please can be even more intense than it is for neurotypical people. Our brains crave approval because we often struggle with self-esteem, shame about being different, and guilt over missed appointments and missing deadlines. When your executive function is so busy playing hide and seek, the safest bet often feels like just saying yes. Anything to avoid confrontation and judgment. Sadly, though, that safety strategy that you've come up with of just saying yes to make everyone happy backfires because every extra yes becomes one more thing that your brain has to juggle, leading to more overwhelm and more "I'm sorry" texts when you drop a ball. So, how do we break free? Well, it starts with noticing those moments of automatic compliance. Do you get a text from a friend asking you if you can come help them move some furniture? Notice the feeling of your gut tightening as you read it. That coworker who's constantly emailing you at 8 o'clock at night with messages marked urgent. Stop and notice the way that your shoulders have creeped all the way up to your earlobes. Those bodily cues are your internal alarm system that something is not right. So when that alarm goes off, give yourself a minute. Pause, breathe, recognize that saying no, or even just let me think about it, is a valid response. I just did an entire video on the fact that no is a complete sentence and talking about implementing boundaries. But I wanted to go a little bit deeper, which is why I'm making this video. You don't owe anyone an instant answer. So no more blurting out "sure" as the elevator doors are closing. No more scheduling things when you have already penciled in self-care and downtime for yourself. And if you want to repeat a polite script that you can use if you're really fearful of what someone's response is going to be to the word no, try this one. I appreciate you thinking of me. Right now, I'm really focused on and insert something here, and I really need to prioritize that. I'm sorry I can't help this time. Short, sweet, and honest. You are not going to turn into some kind of cruel ogre by telling people no. In fact, the right people will respect your honesty and your sanity more than they will respect your perpetual availability. And those that don't, well, that's a them problem. We all have limited energy. So when you guard yours, Hawk's in here. When you guard your energy, you are going to be able to show up more fully to the things that you want to show up for. Quality over quantity. It's way better to attend one function with your full attention than to half-heartedly show up at 5 RSVPs, none of which you want to be at. Of course, balancing empathy versus boundaries can be tricky. You don't have to be a statue of cold no-ness. You can try offering a compromise. No, I'm sorry, I can't do a 3-hour meeting, but I do have 30 minutes for you. Or even better, suggest someone who would be better suited to the situation. This way, you're showing that you do care without overcommitting yourself to things that you legitimately are unable to fully commit to. Let's go a little deeper into how people-pleasing affects your mental health. We talked about how it can affect your physical health, but let's take a second to talk about what it does mentally when you are a chronic people pleaser. Because chronic overgiving just fuels resentment. You think, I did all of this for them and they never even thanked me. And that simmering bitterness inside of you poisons relationships. You start avoiding people to avoid the feeling of being taken for granted. Your anxiety spikes and your sleep suffers, and you begin to doubt your own worth. So what's that antidote? Again, boundaries. Because they allow for a healthy give and take. They foster mutual respect so that your relationships become partnerships and not just one-way streets. And listen, when you start saying no, your little inner gremlin critic is going to be fighting against that because it's not your natural state of being if you are a chronic people pleaser. It's going to start telling you, you're lazy, you're mean, they're going to think that you don't like them anymore, but you can rewire that voice with self-compassion. Tell yourself, I am human. I have limits. My value is not dependent on the deeds that I do for other people. And the more you tell yourself this, the quieter that voice is going to get. So if your inner monologue is super harsh to you, it's time for a mindset intervention. You must start speaking to yourself the way that you would speak to a friend, with kindness and understanding and reassurance that we've got this. And now if you're thinking, but what about my kids or my spouse or my boss? It's a great question. Boundaries can scale. For family, you may need to implement a no zone. Things like, no, I cannot help you with your homework during the time I have set aside for my evening walk. With your partner, try to negotiate. Yes, I will attend this function with you, but please don't double book me this weekend. And at work, you can carve out set focused time. I will be available for calls between 10 and 11, but beyond that time frame, I really need your communication to be an email so that I can focus on the task at hand. Boundaries are not one size fit all. They're customizable in every area of your life. So let's make a pact. The next time you feel that familiar itchy scratchy in your brain, that subconscious begging for approval, pause, breathe, and remember that you are a person too. You have valid needs, valid limits, and valid reasons to say no. Practice your version of no thank you. And watch as your life fills with more space for joy, for relaxation, and for authentic connections. Because at the end of the day, the best way to say yes to what truly matters is to say no to everything else. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this deeper dive into boundaries and people pleasing and saying no. I'm not trying to make this a series or anything, but after the last video, there were some questions and some comments that made me think maybe I need to revisit this and add a little pizzazz. That's not the right word. That's not the word I want, but it's the one that came to mind, so we're going to go with it. But I knew I wanted to dive a little deeper into the people-pleasing aspect of boundaries, and so I did, and here we are. If you did enjoy this video, I would super appreciate it if you would smash all those YouTube buttons for me and leave me a comment below and let me know something nice that you're going to do for yourself this week. For me, I think I'm going to bake a pineapple upside down cake from scratch. I've never done it before. I've always made it with a box mix, but yeah, I think that that's something that I want to try because it's my favorite cake and I am a grown ass adult and can do whatever I want. So I'm going to make me a cake. I love you so much and I will see you next time. Bye. Hey, baby, you want to say hi? Hello. Hi, Rebel family. There's a pretty boy. Are you a pretty boy? Thank you. Kiss. Got a kiss? No? You say bye? High five. Oops. Bye, guys.